expectations for the rest of the year towards the end of this segment here, Jeremy, but I do want to talk about the defense first. If you look at it statistically and you tell me that, okay, Florida's going to score 35 points, Florida's going to is going to hit some huge plays, they're going to gain almost 400 yards, I would have said, oh, that's a little bit disappointing. That's the stat sheet. When I looked at it actually just watching the game, I felt like LSU's defense did a pretty good job outside of Florida hits one huge play for a post, and then you fail to tackle Anthony Richardson on an 81-yard play, which stunk. But I thought LSU's defense was pretty good most of the game.
Yeah, it was solid. I thought when you had to have stops, you got them and you got them off the field. But the big plays are kind of something that's reared its ugly head, and I think a big part to do it is getting Major Burns back there in that secondary. I thought when he was out there, you weren't really giving up those big, passing plays over the top of safeties. And obviously that run Richardson made, I mean, we kind of knew the athlete that he was. He's kind of due for one of those in a big-time game, and once that kid gets momentum that way, he's just so difficult to deal with in the open field. But I thought all in all, I still want to see more Howard Perkins. That definitely was a strip sack. I still don't know why he's not getting more snaps, but I think the defense plays solid, especially those guys up the middle. Wingo's been definitely playing his tail off all season, and also Jaquelin Roy. So, yeah, just got to slow down with those big plays, and if they can do that, I think you'll see a defense that can keep people under 35 for sure.
Did you know that Tom Petty was from Gainesville and that he passed away and that it was Tom Petty Day and that Florida wasn't going to back down? Did you know that? Did you know that?
It seemed like
Did you know that Florida was not going to back down?
It seemed like they were backing down from the first series of the game.
Give it a rest, Joe Tess. You could throw it in there once maybe, but 16 times, we got to calm down with the won't back down punts. That was a little much. But that Richardson run, look, and Brian Kelly talked about it in his press conference today, said, look, we got three guys trying to rip the football out. You got to go over there and tackle him. Like he's a 230-pound horse running. You got to get him on the ground instead of trying to rip the ball out. But I mean, as I look at it, in the first half, Florida had 171 yards, and 52 of them came on the one play, the second play of the game. So outside of that, like 120 yards in the first half, that's nothing super significant. And then in the fourth quarter, they ran for 100 yards thanks to Richardson going nuts. So, I mean, again, I thought the defensive front against a really good Florida offensive line, albeit without Osiris Torrance, which we thought all week long he was going to play. And then I talked to Nick Delatorre on the pregame show an hour to kickoff, and he had seen him on the field, thought he was going to play. So it was a surprise to a lot of people that he did not play in the game, and he's their best player, so that definitely does make a difference. See Will Campbell going out for the Tennessee game. But LSU's defensive front, I thought, acquitted itself fairly decently. Florida was going to run the football a lot. They've got some talented runners. You weren't going to put them in a body bag, but I thought that they showed a little bit of resistance and put themselves in position to get them off the field.
Yeah, I mean, you held their rushers down. I thought that was a big part of what the defense did. You know, holding Johnson to 57 yards and all the other backs 28 and 16 yards. Nothing to really write home about. Obviously, Richardson got a huge chunk of those yards in that long touchdown run. But
he had 30 yards outside of that.
Yeah, exactly. So if you do that, it's like taking a page from my boy Hester, take the big play out and see what happens. But, I thought all in all, without that big play, they did a phenomenal job in the rush game. And that's something you absolutely had to do against this Florida team. And you saw them have some success, obviously big plays in the passing game, but shutting that run game down was going to be huge in this game, and I thought they did that for the most part.
Are your expectations different now, having seen what you saw in this game moving forward? Do you feel like the season's going to go a little bit more differently than you did on Friday? We both picked them to lose on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, I think we both had every reason to do that when you look at how they play in that Auburn game, in the past game, and then obviously being at home against Tennessee. I don't think anyone say, well, they're going to start lighting the world on fire. Yeah, go Tigers. Just not much evidence to show that. But, I think that just the lift of JD5, man, that was huge for this football team. If he's going to play quarterback like that, I would love to see it one more time. But, anytime you have a 93 QBR out of 100, something tells me you're playing your tail off, and that's exactly what he did. So if you're telling me I get that version of JD5, yes, the expectations definitely should change because it's hard to stop when you have all the weapons he has on the outside.
Sometimes on two sides of an argument, whenever we make them here on the show, sometimes I feel like I'm right. I have the right position. The other position is wrong. Sometimes I just feel one way, and sometimes you can feel another. This is this kind of situation. Feel however you want about what LSU is at this point in the season, in the Brian Kelly era. Feel however you want. Here's how I feel. I went into this year saying, this is not a championship team. They got to go week to week. We're not used to that around here because we're used to building towards the goal of a championship. I don't think that is in the cards for this team. You want to tell me they control their own destiny right now in the West? You would not be wrong. That's not where I am. I am at, okay, that's a nice win you put together over Mississippi State at home. You know what? You had your C game in Auburn, and you found a way to make some plays late in the second half and got a win. You know what? Tennessee's better than you, and they just flat out clashed you in Tiger Stadium. You didn't catch a break. They played great. You got dusted. And then your quarterback played his best game of the year, and you went into a really hostile environment, beat a team with some talent, and beat them pretty convincingly. That's a great job. Okay, now we got to go do it against Ole Miss. Like to me, I expect them to lose more games this year. I don't think they've suddenly figured something out. They've clicked. The new coaching staff has what they want. They found an identity, and they're going to be a force the rest of the way. And I don't think if they lose to Ole Miss that they're going to lose the rest of them. Like I'm not ready to go, man, they control their own destiny right now because they did that, and I'm not ready to say, man, cancel Christmas like they stink. Yeah. When they lose again, because I think they will. It's different mindset than I've been in a long time around here. I think it's the mindset that the coaches try to instill every season because you got a one-game season coming up and 24-hour rule, turn the page, whatever. I just think there's some potential in this team, but I think they're going to be fairly inconsistent because I don't think they've got pros at a lot of places, and I think that they play some really good teams moving forward. So yeah. I'm not going to allow myself to get swept into the momentum of it, positive or negative, based on 1 week, which is what I think is easy to do.
I mean, yeah. I mean, of all seasons, I mean, you can easily point to this season. It's a week-to-week thing, and you have to continue to go out there and try to play your A-plus brand of football. But when you're dealing with a bunch of 18, 19-year-old transfer kids, new offense, new defense, it's really hard to sustain that for 12 weeks and realize that's just probably going to be hard to get to that version. But I do believe in momentum, and I think sometimes you can spark a fire and, kind of galvanize your troops that way, especially with what you kind of saw with this offense. I know that they're going to want to replicate that week in and week out. Will they be able to do it? It's a lot easier said than done, but I think the way they played last week, that's something that, it's got to fire up everyone. It's got to fire up the offensive line. It's got to fire up the receivers, the running backs. They got going in the run game, and too. Everyone can kind of build off of this type of win, and you get a great opportunity to show that again against this Ole Miss defense, who I think is not very good. I don't think that Ole Miss defense is good. Now, stopping their rush attacks will be a whole different conversation, but you can do that against some of these defense you play. I mean, you said the competition going forward. I'm looking at defenses who I just don't think are that great. That Arkansas defense is taking a huge
BYU went up and down the field. They just couldn't ever get a stop under any circumstance. I was doing the pregame show, and I'm looking up at this little TV we have in the corner. And every time I look up, there's an Arkansas guy running wind sprints. It looked like August training camp, like workouts. They were just wind sprints down the field. But, like, if you listen to this station for a long time, Jimmy Ott, he always talks about 50-50 games. 50-50. I think LSU has 3 real 50-50 games left. Ole Miss, Arkansas, and Texas A&M, to me, are toss-ups. I would not be the least bit surprised if LSU won or lost any of those games by 2 scores. I would not be surprised at all if they won any of those games. I'd be surprised if they won all 3. But I would not. They are truly 50-50 games. And look, Bama is what they are. They're not one of these juggernauts that they've been and that we thought they may be. Their quarterback's unbelievable, though. So I don't know that's not a 50-50 game even in Tiger Stadium to me. You could beat them. A&M almost beat them. Texas almost beat them. Like I'm not saying you can't win, but I wouldn't call it a 50-50 game. Those other 3 I think are just straight toss-ups.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they are. I think, but going into it, I think if Texas A&M was that number 6 team in the country, this number 1 recruiting class, they're so great. They're not that team. Arkansas is taking a huge step back, and Ole Miss, I think they're not. They really haven't been tested yet. They're going to get to the meat of their schedule, and we're going to see what they're really about.
They're going to be tested on Saturday.
Yeah,
I don't know. They may come in here and win the game, but they will be tested. That environment's going to be good, and I think LSU should be ready to play. I said that against Tennessee, and it didn't work out that way. But, yeah.
Well, no, we kind of saw what Tennessee was. I think they're going to do that to a lot of people. So I know there's no moral victories, but that offense. I'm not too upset at the defense about that one. That's just a juggernaut you ran into on a Saturday afternoon. But yeah, just going forward, I think looking at this team and how they played, like you said, man, they can win these games. It's not like you're going against any world beaters. Looking at Alabama, there's some chinks in that armor. Yeah, I feel good, man. I feel good. It could be a lot worse going into this week of the season.
For sure, absolutely could. You've got first time in the history of the school you win at Florida and at Auburn. I started in my head thinking about it, and I started ticking off years. I was going back, and all of a sudden I got back to 2000. I was like, that's where my memory kind of stops. I can't go deep into the 90s. I mean, I was under 10. So it's a little harder for me. I'd have to go look it up. But I just texted Todd Foley, so I knew he was in the stadium, and who's awesome with stats. And that's his thing. He just does stats. And I said, when was the last time we beat both of them on the road? And I said, never happened. I said, all right, well, I'm going to tweet that out if we win this game. And I did. And people seem to enjoy that. So that's a really good thing. Look, Auburn is a grease fire, and Florida's got its issues. So it isn't as if you went and beat Cam Newton and Tim Tebow in the span of a month to go win. But still, going to Auburn, to Florida, if we're not going to celebrate a championship this year, which I don't think they are, we're going to celebrate the small stuff. That's a nice accomplishment for Brian Kelly in his first year here at LSU.
Thanks so much for watching Hunt Hill on YouTube.
Now do us a favor. Hit the red subscribe button below and throw us a like. We'll see you next time.